So we will just review those questions, which are those questions which has come from the first 5 chapters. The first one was, what type of stoichiometric defect is shown by zinc sulfide? So the zinc sulfide shows Frenkel defect. It shows Frenkel defect because size of zinc and sulfur is comparable, as a result of which there is not comparable. There is a large difference in the size of zinc and sulfur. Zinc is smaller than sulfur. As a result, what happens? Zinc leaves its lattice point and enters into interstitial site. So the reason is that zinc being smaller than sulfide ion, Zn 2 plus ion being smaller than sulfide ion in terms of size, it rattles into the interstitial site of the crystal. As a result, Frenkel defect is caused. Now, this question is from the alkyl halide part. We'll go to the next question. Yes, this question is from surface chemistry. Why medicines are more effective in colloidal state? Surface uh, medicines are more effective in colloidal state because they have large surface area and they can spread over uh, larger area of the tissue. This is one thing. Another thing is that it would not get adsorbed or absorbed. It will not get absorbed deep into the tissue, and it can work on the tissue's surface itself without getting absorbed into the bloodstream. Say, for example, if we take colloid of magnesium hydroxide as milk of magnesia to treat acidity in the stomach, then it will not pass through stomach into the intestine, and through the intestine it will not go to the blood directly. So it will neutralize the acid in the stomach. So its size is such, the particle size is such that it is able to absorb the substrate on which it has to work first. Second thing is that the size of the particle is such that it does not get absorbed deeply into the tissue because its size is bigger than the membrane of the tissues, as a result of which it does not enter into the bloodstream unwantedly. Second is, what is the difference between emulsion and gel? Emulsion means when two liquids they mix together to form colloidal solution. It is further water in oil emulsion and oil in water emulsion. So colloidal solution formed when two liquids are mixed, and this is liquid type of colloid. And gel is when liquid is added to solid. Example, dough of wheat flour, jam, jelly, all these things. So this is the difference. Next question is, state Henry's law and write its to application. So the statement of Henry's law would be that the pressure of any gas in any liquid, dissolved in any liquid, is directly proportional to its mole fraction, and it can be written as P is proportional to chi, that is mole fraction of the gas. This further becomes P is equal to Henry's law constant into X. Its two applications are filling up of CO2 in aerated rings, then addition of helium gas in oxygen cylinder. Next is What is the role of activated charcoal in the gas mask? Activated charcoal absorbs the harmful gases on it. All right. So what is the role? Very easy. The role is adsorption. Absorption of gaseous particles or gases on it. Next is when FeCl3 is added to water, it hydrolyzes to form FeOH whole thrice. This is a solution, reddish brown solution, whereas this is reddish brown PPT. Now since hydroxide ion is in excess, so what will happen is over the residual charges, of FeOH whole thrice, that means the plus charge of the iron and H plus of the solvent, Helmholtz bilayer of OH minus ion will form. Helmholtz electrical bilayer will be formed. As a result, it will form a negative sol or negative colloid. So it will be a negative colloid particle. How it has to be represented? This diagram has to be drawn properly and the electrical Helmholtz bilayer has to be shown. Now here the question is from solution chapter. 4% weight by weight sucrose, molar mass is this much, in water has freezing point this much. Calculate the freezing point of 5% glucose whose molar mass is this much in water. Now we know that depression in freezing point is a colligative property and does not depend upon the chemical property of the molecule. It depends upon the number of particles present, and number of particles can be found out from the given mass. Now when 4% solution is given, that means every 100 gram of the solution contains 4 gram of sucrose. So number of moles we can find out from here. It will be 4 gram divided by 342 gram per mole. So in this way we will find out the number of moles, and we know that delta TF is equal to cryoscopic constant into molality. So from this value, 4% solution of sucrose and its molar mass, we can find out molality. That means molality is given indirectly. Delta TF is given indirectly. This is the depression in freezing point. This value minus this value. You will get the value of depression in freezing point. With that, you will find out the value of Kf, and value of Kf will be common for all cases where water is solvent. So now we have to find out the freezing point for 5%. So now 5% we will find out molality. We will use the value of Kf and then we'll find out the value of delta TF. After finding the value of delta TF, we will subtract the same value with 273, and that will be the freezing point of the glucose when glucose will be at 5% solution. Next is an element crystallizes in FCC. That means its number of atom will be equal to 4. Edge length is given. That means it is 300 into 10 to the power minus 12 meter or minus 10 centimeter. The density is given. So we have to find out the number of atoms in 108 gram of the element. So we know density of any unit cell is equal to its molar mass multiplied by its atomic number divided by the volume, then divided by the Avogadro number. And since edge length is taken in terms of centimeters, so necessary changes has to be done in the terms of unit. So from this value we can find out the value of Z. What we will do, we will not just assume that since it is FCC, so it has to be Z. Now in this case, this Z has to be found out. So we will just use all these values. Z is equal to rho A cube Na by whatever mass is given, 108 gram, and then this has to come equal to 4. Next question from these first 4-5 chapters is, so this is a question from chemical kinetics. Decomposition of NH3 on the surface of platinum is zero order reaction. That means rate is equal to K and NH3 to the power 0. If the rate constant is this much, how long will it take to reduce initial concentration of NH3 from this value to this value? All right. So rate also we can write as change in concentration of NH3 divided by time is equal to K concentration of NH3 to the power 0 will be equal to K concentration of NH3 to the power 0 is equal to 1. Now this difference we can find out by subtracting these two concentrations. So time will be, time we have to find out how long will it take. So time will be coming out to be change in the concentration of NH3 divided by K. Now value of K is known to us. This is the value of K. Change in concentration is known to us. We will subtract 0.1 molar of this much from this, and then we will divide these two and we will get the value of time. So there are three value points. One is relating that it is R equal to K NH3 to the power 0. Another is the expression for decomposition of ammonia with rate constant, and third is the calculation part. So in this way we will get 3 marks. So this is question number 27 and the last question of the question paper. We will go for the English version. Okay. All right. So standard electrode potential for the redox reaction is given here like this. We have to find out the E cell of the reaction, where write the direction of the flow of current when external opposing potential is applied. Okay. All right. Greater than this. Okay, fine. So it is very easy question now. First of all, we have to find out the direction of the flow of current. So what is cathode and what is anode here? Since magnesium is losing electron, so electron is flowing from magnesium to copper, but current will flow from copper to magnesium. So from magnesium, electron is flowing. How many electrons? 2 electrons are flowing out to copper 2 plus. So direction of current, the direction of electron is this. Direction of the flow of electron is this. So direction of the flow of current will be just opposite of it. Direction of flow of current will be just opposite of it. This will be the direction of flow of current. Now, how we will write that? What will be the direction of the flow of current? Direction of flow of electron is always from anode to cathode. Okay, so direction of flow, if we write it down here, direction of flow of electron is always from anode to cathode, and direction of flow of current will be opposite. That means from cathode to anode. Now, while recharging the cell, the direction of the flow of current changes so as to restore the electrons lost by the anode into the anode. So the electrode potential difference, or the potential difference of the cell, is 2.71 volt. So if a potential is applied which is less than 2.75 volt, then the direction of flow of current will not change. It will be from cathode to anode itself. But if the potential is increased more than 2.71 volt, then actually it is recharging mode. So in that case, electrons will start flowing back from copper to magnesium 2 plus. And this is recharging phenomena, in which again the cathode and anode will be restored. And in this case, the flow of current will be from anode to cathode. Now, while you write it in the examination, you cannot scribble the way I am doing, because I am doing with a digital pen, and so much of work on a paper cannot be done over here. So in the exam, you have to draw this cell, and below anode, you have to draw the uh, cell notation also. All right. So when I say anode, I mean to say Mg becoming Mg2 plus. And when I say cathode, I mean to say copper 2 plus becoming copper. So this you have to mention. And then you have to draw the diagram. All right. And then this will be the key point. For this, you will get marks, and for cathode to anode here, which you found out by relating the situation, this one. For this you will get marks. For showing direction, you will get marks. For writing cell notations for cathode and anode, you will get marks. And for drawing a diagram of the cell, you will get marks. So this is a descriptive question in which you have to answer the question in a very logical manner. Okay. So this was it. And then the next question is, there are a few sub questions also. All right, this is or part of the question. Or means if you skip this question, then you can do the same question here. This question is based on the Faraday's law of electrolysis. A steady current of 2 ampere was passed through the two electrolytes X and Y connected in series. That means same amount of charge was passed through. If same current was passed through in series, then same amount of charge was passed through. So until 2.8 gram of the Fe was deposited at cathode at X, how long did it take? How long did the current flow? You have to find out how long did the current flow. So calculate the mass of zinc deposited at Y cell. Okay. So it's very easy. Charge flew, the charge which flew, or the charge which flowed, will be equal to I into T. Now T we have to find out. Charge we can find out very easily, that for Fe 3 plus to become Fe, 3 farad charge is required. And mass of Fe is 55.85 gram. So for 55.85 gram, 3 farad charge is required. So for 2.8 gram, how much charge will be required? So Q we can find out from here. I is given to us. So Q we will find out by using unitary method. For 55.85 gram, 3 into 96500 coulomb charge is required. So for 2.8 gram, 3 into 96500 coulomb by 2.8 coulomb is required. Now charge you have got. This is the value of charge. The value of current is given in the question. Now time you have to find out. Now after the time is found out, then you can find out that how much charge was passed in zinc, and the mass of zinc is given over here. See, without seeing this value 56, I have taken 55.85. So you can take 56 gram per mole also. All right, so your work has become easy now. 1 farad is equal to 96500 coulomb per mole. So 3 farad, for 3 farad I have written in coulombs by using 96500 coulomb. All right, now for zinc, uh, charge passed is found out. Now we know that for zinc to become zinc 2 plus to become zinc, 2 farad charge is required. That means 2 farad charge, if I can use this place, 2 farad charge corresponds to 65.3 gram zinc. So how much farad was passed? This was the charge. So we can write 3 for 3 divided by 2.8 farad. 3 into 65.3 by 2.8 gram zinc was deposited. So in this way, by using unitary method, you can solve it. Next is, in the plot of the molar conductivity, lambda m versus the square root of the concentration is given. All right. So we have to predict the nature of the electrolytes A and B. Very clearly, A represents a strong electrolyte. All right. So it is a strong electrolyte like KCl. If you remember the diagram in your NCERT book for this, it is just like a strong electrolyte. So curve A represents a strong electrolyte. And curve B represents weak electrolyte. Nothing much. We just had to predict it. Next is, what happens on extrapolation of lambda m approaching 0 for electrolytes A and B. Now for A, if we extrapolate it, then we find that at 0 concentration, when the concentration is 0, that means when no ionization has taken place, at that time no molar conductivity is there. But in case of weak electrolyte, if it is there in the solution, then some part will remain decomposed and it will show some molar conductivity, and since it is running parallel to the y axis, so it will never meet at 0. All right. So for electrolyte B, there is a maximum value of molar conductivity which is achieved at infinite dilution. All right. So a maximum lambda max of molar conductivity is achieved at concentration tending towards 0. But in case of strong electrolyte, it is very clear that if it is in the solution, it will have high conductivity, and if it is not there in the solution, it will have no conductivity. So there is no increase or decrease in the molar conductivity as such with dilution or with increase in concentration in terms of strong electrolyte. In case of strong electrolyte, as dilution is increased, molar conductivity increases. And when dilution is such that there is no concentration of the electrolyte is there, it will show no molar conductivity. That means that infinite dilution, the molar conductivity of strong electrolyte will be very less. Whereas at infinite dilution of organic compounds acting as electrolytes, that means weak electrolytes, it will have some molar conductivity. So in this way, you have to explain this second part. So what I will do is, just like a student writes question paper in the exam, answer in the answer script by seeing the question paper, I will be solving it, these many questions, and then I will be uh, sharing the same with you all, so that you see the complete format of the answers to be written. All right. So here I just gave you an understanding about the types of question asked and the approach and the thinking which we should apply to solve those problems. Here you will see that the mixed bag of questions are there. See, Faraday's law of electricity is also there. With that, the molar conductivity and infinite dilution concept is also given. So in this way, the questions are given in the examination. You will not find that the questions are very difficult, just like put the value and get the answer kind of a question is there. You should be knowing how to relate the formulas with the given values. It's very simple. Thank you.